As you know, on Sunday night or Monday morning of every week, we post a new expository semiotics explaining why we would choose which lectionary readings. But in these readings, our dream is, and our desire is, to help you read the signs and fondle the details and spot the seminal metaphors, the condensed signs and the stories that are key for preaching to a digital culture. So strap on your seatbelt and join us as we prospect our passages for today. Welcome to the first Sunday of Advent 2020, vlog number 37. Our lectionary readings for today begin with a marvelous passage from Isaiah 64, 1-9. And let me just, I love this passage. I'm going to read it just because I love it so much. Oh, that you would rend the heavens and come down. Isn't that great? Rend the heavens. Just break them open and come down. That the mountains might shake at your presence, as when the melting fire burns, as the fire causes the waters to boil, to make your name known to your adversaries, that the nations may tremble at your presence when you did awesome things for which we did not look. You came down the mountain, and they quaked at your presence. For since the beginning of the world, men have not heard nor perceived by ear, neither has the eye seen a God beside you who acts for the one who waits for him. I could go on and read more, but this theme of waiting is the key to Advent and what I call the Advent adventure. The theme of waiting and watching is here, right, introduced in the text from Isaiah. The psalm reading is from Psalm, the 80th chapter, and we're just going to read a few of these verses, but they're marvelous. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, you who lead Joseph like a flock. You are enthroned between the cherubim. Shine forth in the sight of Ephraim and Benjamin and Manasseh. Stir up your strength and come and rescue us. And then it goes on and talks about how restore us again, O God of hosts, and cause your face to shine, and we shall be saved, or some translations have it, we shall be delivered. A great passage from the Psalms about waiting on the Lord for the salvation of God's people. The epistle reading is 1 Corinthians, the first chapter, and it's basically just an introduction of Paul, the typical Paul introduction that he is an apostle and you need to listen to him. But the gospel reading, I want to just spend a little time with because it has this theme of keeping watch. This is Mark, the 13th chapter, verses 24 to 37. And this is a passage that is fun, and most people know it. They don't know where it is, but it's a trick question. Did Jesus know everything? And of course you think, yes, he did. But Jesus himself said that there was one thing he didn't know. So Jesus did not know everything. And here is the passage. I'm going to pick it up at verse 32, the unknown day and hour. And he's talking about watching for the time and the seasons, being able to read the signs, and he uses the fig tree as an example for the arrival of the Messiah and the arrival of the second coming, the return. But concerning that day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, not the Son, but only the Father. Take heed, watch, and pray. There's that theme of watching and waiting. Watch and pray, for you do not know when the time will come. For the Son of Man is like a man leaving on a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants and to every one his work, and commanded the porter to watch. Watch therefore, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming, in the evening, or at midnight, or in the crowing of the rooster or in the morning, lest he come suddenly and find you sleeping. What I say to you, I say to all, watch. And this is the Advent theme. Watch and wait. Watch and wait. In the medical world, there's a procedure. They acronym it and shorthand it WAW, W-A-W. You know what it means? Watch and wait. We don't know what's going to happen. So the best thing to do before we go in, the number one rule of medicine, do no harm. Before we do any harm, we have to WAW. It's called W-A-W, watch and wait. And that's what Advent is. It's these 4 weeks before Christmas of watching and waiting, and watching and waiting. WAW. And I actually think this movie, that is the number one Christmas movie, almost, I think. It has been rated the number one inspirational American film of all time. And it's called A Wonderful Life. I think it was filmed in like 1946. Jimmy Stewart, who was the guy who was in it? Donna Reed, Frank Capra is the one who directed it. One of the top 20 American films of all time. But the key to A Wonderful Life, which is what we celebrate, the Advent adventure, is an adventure in the most wonderful life one can have. There's no more adventurous life than following Jesus, the advent of the Messiah. But the key to it is W-A-W, watch and wait, or watchful and waitful. I don't know if there is such a word as waitful. We'll just pretend there is, okay? So watchful and waitful, times grateful, squared graceful. So WA, W-A-W, watch and wait, times grateful, squared graceful. And that is a wonderful life. So the key to a wonderful life is this watching, waiting, in a spirit and attitude of gratefulness, but in the context and squared, and maybe better cubed, is the grace of God that surpasses all understanding. So that's the key to the wonderful life that we're celebrating here at Christmas. Now, this word wait, I just want to spend a little time with this, because this word wait has a double meaning. And it's one that when you hear wait on the Lord, and these texts, just wait on the Lord, wait on the Lord. There's 2 meanings of wait. First, wait means to serve, hence the word waiter. And so when you're waiting, there's an element of, it's not as if you're doing nothing. It's you're spending that time in a spirit of service. The Levites were called those who waited in the temple and in the tabernacle. And so that's one sense of waiting is serving. But the other sense of waiting is the more familiar one. It's to preserve and just endure and stay in there. I hate that phrase, hang in there. No, you don't hang in there. What a way to go through life, hang in there. No, you serve in there. You pray in there. You run in there. You do everything but hang. So there's this element of waiting on the Lord is double here. It's serving at the same time you're enduring and you're persevering and you're patiently waiting for God's time to unfold. Now there is this wait and this watch. So it's watch and wait. And there's a phrase that is really, you hear it all the time now, not on my watch. Not on my watch. And it's the biblical kind of precedent for this is, this is the King James Version I'm giving you. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower and will watch to see what God will say unto me. That's the Coverdale translation of 1535. And it is a, that's the King James. The Coverdale is from the Nehemiah 7:13. Let me give you this. While they are yet standing in the watch, the doors shall be shut and barred, and there were certain citizens of Jerusalem appointed to be watchmen, surely one in his watch. So you have this understanding of a role, actually, of watchmen, people who would watch and not let things happen on their watch. In the Hebrew tradition, the night was divided into 3 watches. Now, the Romans divided it into 4. It started from 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 3, and 3 to 6. And you get a little sense of this in Jesus' division here in the reading today, as he divides up the night into these 4 divisions. And the 4th watch is the most critical. A lot of things happen in the scripture on this 4th watch. So this is the watching, the night watch, the dividing of the evening into the Hebrew tradition 3 watches. But the Hebrews kind of just merged with the Roman culture. And so it became 4 watches. And the last watch, the 4th watch, from 3 to 6, is the most important. And when strategic things happen on that 4th watch, when Jacob wrestled with the angel and met God face to face, and Israel became known as with the name, the one who wrestles. Moses led the Israelites across the Red Sea, according to the tradition, in that 4th watch. Gideon defeated the Midianites in the middle watch, not the 4th watch, but it was the middle watch in that Hebrew sense. Peter and Jesus walk on water, 4th watch. Angels appear to the shepherds in the fields to announce the birth of Jesus on the 4th watch. Jesus' resurrection from the dead, when? 4th watch. The bridegroom woos his bride in the night hours, 4th watch. So this 4th watch, now this is different from the tradition of the 2 sleeps. We have one. The human body actually has adjusted to a new way of spending the night. It used to be that you had 2 sleeps, and the first one you went to bed at dusk, but then you got up, and every person, every household had a watch, and you got up and you patrolled the property, you saw everything was okay, you made sure the fire didn't go out, you made sure there were no predators around, and so you had like a 3-hour interlude in the middle of the night, and then you went back to sleep and you got up at dawn. So this is different, though. This is a watch that was maintained professionally, and it was key to protecting villages and protecting people that lived together. And I really do think that there is something about that 4th watch. I don't want the time to go into it here, but that time from, ever wake up 3 to 6 in the morning and you feel something? I mean, this is a sacred watch, that 4th watch. Early and dark. Jesus' favorite time of day, that 4th watch. Early and dark, just before dawn. There's something very special about that. Early and dark, that 4th watch. So if you ever awakened, this is the best time actually the best time of day is that early and dark, that 4th watch. So you have this tradition of spiritual encounters taking place, major events, strategic happenings taking place during that 4th watch. And Jesus actually had some things to say about that 4th watch that you can you can read about in various places in the scriptures, specifically Luke 12:35 to 40. I really believe that there's something particularly pregnant and potent about prayers during that fourth watch. That's one reason why monks in monastic communities, their day starts at the start of that fourth watch. That's when they get up and start their day, and they start with prayer at that fourth watch. And they do it for a reason. Watchmen, tell us of the night. What its signs of promise are, traveler, o'er yon mountain's height, see that glory beaming star. Watchman, doth its beauteous ray aught of joy or hope foretell? Traveler, yes, it brings the day, promised day of Israel. Watchman, tell us of the night. Higher yet, that star ascends. Traveler, blessedness and light, peace and truth, its course portends. And this fourth stanza, matching the fourth watch, is where the light of peace and truth bursts forth, covering the earth. Here it is. Watchmen, will its beams alone gild the spot that gave them birth? Traveler, ages are its own. See, it bursts o'er all the earth. And then the final dialogue in stanza 6 reveals the Advent theme of the coming of the Prince of Peace. Watchman, let thy wandering cease. Hie thee to thy quiet home. Traveler, lo, the Prince of Peace. Lo, the Son of God is come. There was a tradition of the watchman, and I brought a couple of examples of this. This is a Black Forest carving of a watchman that was not an urban watchman, as you can tell by the horn here and by the way in which he's dressed. This is more a watchman for cattle and sheep and that kind of thing, and the way he's looking at the distance, watching for predators. So this is a rural watchman, but this right here is an urban watchman. And their job was literally to keep an eye on their section of the roadway or the highway or the city blocks where they were assigned. And the issues, of course, were crime, there were fire. In addition, they had the job of calling out the time and describing the weather at every hour. So when the hour struck, they would call out the time, the hour it was, and they would call out what kind of weather they were having. The urban watchman carried this stick. This is a pretty big stick, but it's more like a spear, but it's missing. I think it's missing part of it here. But the stick was used actually as a defensive weapon in case there were problems with thieves. But it was also, they used to poke the doors of the businesses to make sure they were locked. And so part of the watchman's job was to protect the local businesses. And he'd take this stick and he would poke the door. And if it was unlocked or whatever, he would alert the owner of the danger that his property was in. They would always have a lantern. The lantern would provide light. We can't imagine before electricity how dark this was. They would often patrol in pairs. And they were, the bad thing about this, one of the bad parts of their reputation was they would often fall asleep on their watch. And Shakespeare did a whole thing about this. I think it was Much Ado About Nothing, but how watchmen could just fall asleep. And the heads, the bosses of the watchmen were called beadles, and that's spelled B-E-A-D-L-E. And beadles had a role depending on the culture, but the beadles were the ones that organized the watchmen, that hired the watchmen. There was a watch house where they all would report and they would get their assignments and when they were to do it. And in England, and the Anglican Church, the beadle was the usher. And the beadle was also in charge of finances and that kind of thing. In the Scottish Church, in Scottish Presbyterianism, the beadle was the one who kind of put the vestments on the pastor, opened up the scriptures, unlocked the Bible box to get the Bible out, and tagged all the readings of the day. And in Scotland, the beadle had one last function before the preacher went out to preach. His last job, are you ready, was to give that preacher, this is Scotland now, a little shot of scotch to get him going. Now, Wesley said, our preachers don't need any help getting going. They need help coming down. And so Wesley prescribed, at the end of a long day of preaching, and Methodist itinerants could preach 2, 3, 4 times on a Sunday, sometimes more, mild ale, candied orange peel, or lemonade. And I have no idea what candied orange peel does to cool you down and to sedate you. But those were Wesley's prescriptions. He said, our preachers don't need help getting going. We need help coming down. So, at any rate, so the beadle was in charge of the watchman. And the watch house was the place from which these watchmen operated. Now that is medieval to basically 16th, 17th, 18th century. The earlier forms of watchmen were a little different, and this has huge significance for our readings today and the image and metaphor of the watchman. Because whenever there was a battle, and the Hebrew word that is used here, not for watchman, but for, I'll give you the translation in a minute, is B-A-S-A-R, basar. Appears 24 times. And it's almost, not exclusively, but almost used in the context of a military battle. And the Greek word we translate bizarre is euangelion, which is good news. So here's the story of the watchman in Hebrew culture and in Jesus' day. When tribes went to battle, when cities went to battle, the rule was, to the victor belongs the spoils. So it was a matter of all or nothing. If you won, you got all, including your opponent. If you lost, you not only lost the battle, your chances are lost your life. If it were male, you lost your life. Female, it was not good what was going to happen. Children were made slaves. Women were raped. So when they went to battle, they appointed these watchmen, each village, to let the village know whether they were winning or losing, because it appeared that they were losing. They would give the village enough time to at least alert them to flee. Flight. Run. For your life depends on it. And so these watchmen would come running. These messengers would come running and let the village know whether it was good news or bad news. And you can imagine these villagers, when they were in the midst of battle, the whole future depended on whether they won or lost. And so the word that was used to announce that your side had won, Hebrew, basar. Greek, euangelion. Euangelion. And these runners would run, and they would run so far and so fast, and because they wanted people to know as soon as possible. And they would have, oftentimes, they were known for their bloody feet because they were just running until everything was gone, and the shoes were gone, and all that was there was their bare feet. And they would, at the top of their lungs, yell out this word, Evangelion! Evangelion! Which means good news! You're saved. We're saved. You're saved. And the reason why this is so significant, this cry of the watchman, and the theme of WAW, watch and wait for Lent, is that Jesus, when he took his moment to announce who he was and provide his mission statement for his ministry in the synagogue, you remember the text that he chose. It was, you find it in Luke 4:18 and 19. But it's really from Isaiah 61:1. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because the Lord has chosen me. He has commissioned me to encourage the poor. I'm reading Isaiah. To help the brokenhearted, to decree the release of captives and the freeing of prisoners. Or in Jesus's rendition, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has appointed me to proclaim Evangelion, good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and the regaining of sight to the blind, to set free those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of Jubilee, the year of the Lord's favor. All right. Do you get it? Do you feel it? Jesus is the runner. Blessed are the feet of those who bring good news. And with bloody hands and with bloody feet, the runner came from heaven to earth to proclaim to all the world. Evangelion. Good news. You're saved. You're saved. Watch and wait in a spirit of gratitude multiplied by grace. And that is the wonderful life. It's a wonderful life that Jesus promises to all of us. The prayer of St. Thomas Aquinas. I call it his Advent prayer. Grant me, O Lord my God, understanding to know you, diligence to seek you, wisdom to find you, a life that is pleasing to you, perseverance to wait for you, and a loving trust that will lay hold of you at last. Amen and amen. Can you hear the cry of the runner? At the beginning of his ministry, good news. And at the end of his ministry on the cross, as he sings Psalm 22 in its fullness and ends it with the cry of victory. It is finished. Evangelion. Semiotics is the art of angling, of turning things askew, upside down, inside out, cattywampus, sunny side up, over easy, scrambled, hard-boiled. We hope you enjoyed today's journey, but always remember, It's more important you prepare the preacher than you prepare the sermon.